This is CBC Here and Now.
The so-called Moya Green Report has already stirred up plenty of controversy in this province.
Will it spark, controversy and, comment and discussion? That's a positive thing.
It certainly has been a very secretive process.
Tomorrow, we finally get a look at its contents.
The temperatures are going to drop over the next couple of days with some rain, and then we've got some snow in the forecast for parts of Labrador.
A new developer is giving this RV park and campground in Deer Lake a major makeover.
Stop development until we know it's being done right.
But some residents are really concerned about the environment, the waterways, and the wildlife surrounding it.
Just feels like this is being taken from our town.
I think there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of questions weren't asked.
I'll try and break it all down for you tonight on Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Anthony Germain.
And I'm Peter Cowan. By this time tomorrow, we'll know the details of the long-awaited Moya Green Report. The report from the Premier's Economic Recovery Team will be released at noon tomorrow. The Liberals are quick out of the gate today to assure residents that widespread consultations will be held before any big changes are made. Here Now's Terry Roberts explains.
Will it spark, controversy and, comment and discussion? That's a positive thing.
Finance Minister Siobhan Cody says she has not seen an advance copy of the report, a document that is expected to lay out a path for economic recovery for a province facing a fiscal and demographic crisis.
We have to find the right path to ensure the stability that we all want.
The chair of the Economic Recovery Team is Moya Green. Known as a change maker in her long career as a CEO, Green will release her report at noon on Thursday during a virtual news conference. After months of reviewing the province's spending, revenues, and public services, Green is expected to reveal a list of recommendations aimed at reversing a long pattern of deficits and a punishing net debt that has grown even larger during the pandemic.
We all want a stronger economy. We all want to address our financial concerns. We all want to ensure that we have a vibrant future. And so I think this is a good discussion that we will have, around our kitchen tables, with our friends and family, and then with government so that we can set that path.
But there's one thing most already agree on. The current pattern of spending hundreds of millions more every year than the province receives in revenue has to soon end. That will require some difficult conversations, and the finance minister is promising that the government is ready to listen to every citizen.
Once we understand the magnitude of it and how we will go ahead with public consultations, there will be, as I said, a portal available through Engage NL. There will be a 1-800 number available. There will be ways and means for people to email or even send by Canada Post. And then within a short period of time, when we need to digest the document ourselves as government, we'll also have public sessions. They will be virtual, of course, because of COVID. There will be virtual town halls that people can join in and participate in, and there will also be similar sessions for stakeholders.
This process began creating controversy long before any report was ever released. Labour leader Mary Shortall quit the recovery team in January, calling the process window dressing and criticizing the secrecy. The team's work also became a lightning rod during the recent and drawn-out election campaign, with opposition politicians calling for the report to be released before voters cast any ballots. The PCs still have concerns.
Normally, I think the way things would happen, you'd have an interim report, and from an interim report, you do consultations, and they would help advise a final report. But it appears we're getting a final report and told that there will be public consultations. And, if you're going to go out and make impacts on people who live throughout this province of Newfoundland and Labrador, then they deserve to be consulted. They deserve to know what's going to happen. And it's not simply about calling up a 1-800 number or emailing a response. There has to be considerable dialogue, and the people had to be listened to.
When I asked Siobhan Cody whether this report will be the beginning of a transformational period in this province, she said yes, but don't expect changes right away, or for this report to have any impact on the May 31st provincial budget. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, to an update now on a story that we brought you Monday on Here Now. Ken Hare from Harbour Grace has won a 9-year fight for his late husband's CN rail pension.
After all those years and all the people that he worked with, they still didn't acknowledge the fact that Jerry and I were a couple. We were a couple in every sense of the word.
Well, CN denied Hare the pension because the two were a same-sex couple. The widower had to sell the couple's home as well as many of his partner's belongings. He also gave up their 5 beloved show dogs, this just to make ends meet. And last night, a day after sharing his story with CBC, Hare received a letter from CN Railway. CN now recognizes him as Jerry Schwartz's common-law spouse. CN's decision means he will get a survivor pension for the rest of his life. CN is also sending Hare a lump sum for 9 years of missed payments with interest. The company tells CBC it has amended its dated pension policy and offered this apology. Quote, the company has made firm commitments to increasing inclusion and diversity in our workforce. We've made it clear that our LGBTQ+ employees are welcomed, valued, and accorded the same rights and privileges as all our railroaders. CN goes on to say that it has found a small number of similar same-sex cases and is contacting those widowers to correct those situations. Quote, life partners who find themselves in this circumstance will be able to collect the survivor benefits of their loved ones retroactively.
Plenty of sunshine this story across the island today. Temperatures soaring to the double digits for most of the island. Didn't quite reach that in the eastern areas. However, areas across the metro varied quite significantly. Downtown saw temperatures near 10, 11 degrees, and then the airport only reached a high near 7 this afternoon, reaching the double digits towards the Strait as well, and then those temperatures into the single digits across most of Labrador. Now, we do have an area of low pressure offshore right now. That's bringing cloud cover, fog, drizzle, and some showers, even some flurries for parts of northern Labrador, well, anywhere on coastal Labrador, and then nothing but sunshine this afternoon for most of the island. The winds were much less today, too, which is why those temperatures, even though 7, 8 degrees, felt quite nice. The winds are going to pick up a little bit as we head through the night tomorrow. That's as our next area of low pressure moves in. I'll get into those details, tell you how much rain and snow is on the way coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. There are more COVID cases today, and again, they're related to travel or close contacts of people who traveled. Today, they announced 6 cases, 3 in the eastern region, all from travel within Canada. A case in Central is a contact of a previous case. In Western, there's 1 related to domestic travel, and a second is a close contact. With record high cases in other provinces like Alberta, health officials aren't surprised travelers coming here are testing positive. So far, the cases are all either travelers or people in their immediate household. With the 3rd wave of the pandemic hitting most of the other provinces, Dr. Janice Fitzgerald says we can prevent one here.
So I don't think it's inevitable. I think we will see cases. I think we will continue to see cases, and we'll probably see more cases over the coming weeks. But I think how people adhere to public health measures, that will certainly make the difference as to whether or not we see a wave out of this. You know, what we have to remember is that we do have some strict travel restrictions to come into the province. We have strict quarantine restrictions. We have testing for those people who are our most frequent travelers coming into the province.
Well, to get out of the pandemic, people are going to need to get vaccinated, and today Health Canada expanded who's eligible to get the Pfizer vaccine. It's now going to be available to people as young as 12. It's the first country to make that move.
This is the first vaccine authorized in Canada for the prevention of COVID-19 in children and marks a significant milestone in Canada's fight against the pandemic. Health Canada received Pfizer-BioNTech submission for this expanded indication on April 16th. After completing a thorough and independent scientific review of the evidence, the department determined that this vaccine is safe and effective when used in this younger age group.
So how's that going to work in Newfoundland and Labrador? Well, the provincial health minister said today this move will mean 30,000 more people will be eligible to be vaccinated, and they'll get their shots before the end of the school year.
As we saw with our last outbreak, that kids in this age group can certainly spread this virus. So we want to make sure that we can get them done so that hopefully, by very early in the next school year, we can have everybody fully vaccinated in that age group. So that's our goal, and we're working through exactly how that's going to play out.
Well, still with COVID, this morning a warm gesture was sent to the crew stranded on board a cargo ship anchored in Conception Bay. The Federal Montreal left the city it's named after last week and was bound for Europe. But with more than a dozen active cases of COVID on board, the ship is now docked just off of Foxtrap. One crew member has been airlifted to hospital. Today, the town of CBS teamed up with the Salvation Army to deliver a package to those on board, dozens of socks, mittens, and more.
23 pairs of wool socks also became 23 pairs of mittens and 23 sweaters and 23 coats. And so there's a lot of good stuff that's been brought along to the folks on that vessel, and we hope that it can be certainly a way to meet the needs that they might have right now.
As I mentioned, the town of CBS also played a role in this gesture of kindness to that stranded crew. More of my conversation with Mayor Terry French and Chris Pilgrim, who you saw just there. That's ahead in about 25 minutes on Here and Now. Another story now, a popular campground and RV park in Deer Lake is getting a big makeover, but one family believes the company behind the renovation is damaging the environment and not following all of the rules. Here Now's Colleen Connors has this report.
Behind these do not enter signs is the popular Deer Lake RV Park and Campground. John Sterling acquired it in 2019 and plans to give it a major makeover, improving these facilities and installing hundreds of camping lots.
It's basically a redevelopment of an existing footprint of around 40 lots. So we tend to try and expand that up to a couple hundred lots and make it an actual destination resort for Deer Lake and the community.
The campground and park is near Deer Lake Beach and near the Humber River. Sarah and her mother Jean say the company has developed land beyond the park's original footprint, and they are worried about the salmon in the river and several species of waterfowl that depend on nearby ponds and an island near the park.
It just feels like this is being taken from our town and our community, and it's going to be utilized for commercial gain. It's going to turn into a commercial enterprise, and it will no longer be a part of our community the way it's always been when I grew up.
Young says she has compared previous images of the park and what it looks like today, and says the construction has moved past any buffer zones, with quarry fill going into the water.
I think there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of questions weren't asked. The main reason, this is a 60-year-old RV park. We are nowhere near working by a salmon river in the footprint that we're working on right now.
Former town councillor Jean Young calls the cleared lots near the water a war zone and wants the town to stop any construction from continuing.
Stop development until we know it's being done right.
But Sterling says development is right. He and his wife Deidre have a strong connection to the park, and he's developing the area to boost Deer Lake tourism while staying on what he calls the green side. While he plans to develop more land adjacent to the RV park in 5 to 10 years, for now the project is not getting any closer than 200 meters to the Salmon River.
That again is going to be put forward once we move ahead, try to expand further. We will apply for the proper assessments and/or permits to move forward with that portion of the project.
For now, Sterling asked the public to stay away from the construction zone for safety reasons. Even with ongoing questions and concerns from some residents, Sterling does hope to have this campground open to the public, to campers, this coming summer season. Colleen Connors, CBC News, Deer Lake.
Well, a third trial has started for an RNC officer accused of sexual assault. Jurors were selected this morning. Doug Snellgrove was charged with sexually assaulting a woman while on the job in 2015. He stood trial for the first time in 2017. An appeals court overturned that verdict a year later. A second trial started in September but ended in a mistrial. The third trial is taking place inside this makeshift courtroom at the School for the Deaf building in St. John's to allow for proper physical distancing. Media outlets are prevented from reporting on details from his previous two trials. Well, Travis Firmage has been sentenced to 3 years in prison for impaired driving causing death. In a Clarenville courtroom today, the judge explained his ruling. He said Firmage wasn't showing remorse for the 2017 crash. The judge also rejected Firmage's claim that Calvin Tobin took the wheel in an attempt to commit suicide. Here now's Mark Quinn was there for today's ruling.
35-year-old Travis Firmage was responsible for 25-year-old Calvin Tobin's death, said Justice Paul Noble. Tobin was a passenger in Firmage's car when Firmage crashed in 2017. Firmage was sentenced to 36 months in prison. Tobin's aunt Carol Ann Brewer reacted to the decision outside of the Clarenville courthouse.
I'm disgusted. I've waited almost 4 years to get a sentencing that's 36 months. He has over 300 days already done because he was homeless. So he gets 36 months and we get a lifetime.
Brewer said Tobin's death has devastated her and her family, and she called on anyone who might drink and drive to think twice about doing it.
And if you want to go partying and go drinking, fine. Just don't get behind the wheel. Because today or tomorrow, it could be your family going through the same devastation that mine and many more are going through.
Brewer said her family will never recover from this tragedy, and she hopes that this will never happen to anyone else again. Mark Quinn, CBC News, Clarenville.
Well, people who've experienced sexual exploitation are showcasing their artwork at a gallery in downtown St. John's. The exhibition is called Reconnection and Resilience. Here now's Katie Breen attended last night's opening.
The artwork is mostly anonymous, but the lived experience isn't. All this was created by people who've experienced sexual exploitation.
Exploitation is happening all around us. It's not just a mainland thing or, in other countries. It's happening within our province.
It's a small exhibit with a heavy presence. The Coalition Against the Sexual Exploitation of Youth commissioned the art trying to raise voices and awareness. 5 artists submitted work, including Vero Drake, the only artist who used her name.
The social conditions and material conditions of my life as a young, marginalized, vulnerable transgender woman framed my own agency in what I was and what was and was not possible for me at that time.
Drake now identifies as non-binary. She has a photograph and 2 poems in the show, works speaking to her past experience in the sex trade. Not all sex work is exploitation. Exploitation is the abuse of positions of vulnerability, power, trust, and dependency. Drake worked independently and didn't feel exploited in her sex work, but felt her life circumstances were exploitative.
We don't deserve to be hidden in the shadows, and that our truths and our experiences should be valued and celebrated and not hidden or be afraid of.
Drake and the other artists offer insight. According to Peterson, the pandemic and its isolation are creating more vulnerabilities and increasing the amount of online sexual exploitation. She says the public needs to recognize exploitation as an issue and learn from people with lived experience.
How can they educate us on where to move forward? What services can we then advocate for?
The show's theme is Reconnection and Resilience. It runs until Friday.
I hope that my words and my work can speak to other people, and hopefully they can find themselves in my work.
Katie Breen, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, today is Red Dress Day, also known as the National Day of Awareness for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls. Between 2001 and 2015, Stats Canada reports that Indigenous women were roughly 6 times more likely to be the victim of a homicide over non-Indigenous women. In St. John's today, you can see the staff at First Light Friendship Centre dressed in red to show their support. They shared these photos on their Facebook page.
The power of horticulture is evident. People relax more, they start to chat, they interact with each other.
Coming up after the weather, why some gardeners want prison inmates to get their hands dirty. Welcome back to Here Now. Ashley, before we get to the weather, we've got a little bit of hockey news. Local hockey star Alex Newhook is set to make his debut in the NHL tonight.
Yeah, the 20-year-old from St. John's was brought up from the AHL earlier and added to the Colorado Avalanche's taxi squad. Now he's set to play in tonight's game against the San Jose Sharks. The Avalanche coach confirmed today that Newhook will be part of tonight's lineup.
Here he is on the ice in California for a practice skate where the Avalanche has been playing a series of games against San Jose. That series wraps up with a final game tonight. The game starts, it's going to be a late one, 11 o'clock Newfoundland time, half an hour later if you're in most of Labrador.
Well, good luck with that game. But tonight's weather looking pretty nice for most of us. It'll be a fairly quiet day, or quiet evening rather, but today's temperatures were beautiful across most of the island. Beautiful spring day, 15 degrees in Badger today. Again, those temperatures taking a little bit of time to reach the warmer temperatures, and that's because we saw some northerly winds today, keeping those temperatures into the single digits, high single digits, but still those single digits this afternoon. And then temperatures minus 2 degrees for Makkovik and 7 for Lab City this afternoon. Those temperatures are dropping a little bit for parts of Labrador, and it's down to 5 degrees in St. John's right now, and those temperatures will continue to dip as we head through the overnight. 12 right now in Corner Brook. So a beautiful evening for you. And taking a look at the satellite and radar, not a whole lot happening. Saw a few showers offshore there on the west coast, but some cloud cover is moving in. They should stay offshore for the most part. You may see a few spits of rain. But overall, it'll be a very quiet evening tonight as we take a look at the future tracker. The clouds will be on the increase, though, as we head through the evening hours, and then some snow will develop for Lab West as we head through the overnight tonight, and then continue to spread a little bit further west as we get into the morning hours. You can see not a whole lot happening across the island. Like I said, the clouds will be on the increase, but we might see some drizzle as we head into the early morning hours as well. Now, as far as snowfall goes, this takes us through to tomorrow morning. Probably 2 to 5 centimeters is a good bet. It'll be a fairly wet snow. We may see some pockets of 5 to 10. But overall, that's what you're looking at. And as we head through Friday morning, that snow is going to continue right through the day tomorrow. It will mix with some rain. So the 10 to 15 is probably overdoing it a little bit. You may see that, but as it mixes with the rain, we probably won't see too much in the way of accumulation, maybe another 5 to 10 as you head through the afternoon tomorrow. As far as temperatures go tonight, should be hovering anywhere from 0 to 4 degrees across the island. The winds will stay generally light as we head through the night tonight. There's that potential for some drizzle, and then a few showers possible for the northern peninsula. Temperatures tonight for Labrador generally hovering near or just below 0 for Nain. Again, those coastal fog patches will continue for most of you, and you're looking at the potential for some flurries and or showers through the overnight. Winds not really much to speak of. Northeasterlies somewhere between 10 to 20 kilometers per hour. So taking a look at the futurecast for tomorrow, we'll see that snow mainly stick around Lab West through the afternoon. Clouds will be the story tomorrow afternoon for the majority of the island. You may see some drizzle in the morning and then just mainly cloudy skies through the afternoon. It'll mix with rain through the afternoon for Lab West, and then we'll see that rain move very slowly from the southwest a little bit further north and a little bit further east as we head through the evening hours. But you can see most of the rain won't reach the metro area until at least after midnight, and then we'll see that spread a little bit further north as well. In some of the higher elevations, you may see some flurries in the mix through the overnight. So temperatures tomorrow will be cooler than what we saw today in some areas. Daytime high around 7 degrees for St. John's. That's what we recorded at the airport anyway. Winds will be northeasterlies about 20 kilometers per hour. But again, those temperatures somewhere between 5 to 9 degrees. A little bit further, the further south you get, a little bit warmer the further south you get. As you head towards central, keeping that potential for some drizzle in the morning and then cloudy skies through the afternoon. That rain will arrive early afternoon, it looks like, for the southwest. Some of that higher elevation or further inland, again, you may see a few flurries in the mix, but it shouldn't accumulate to too much. And then those winds will be out of the east, about 20 to 40 kilometers per hour, reaching the double digits from Stephenville to Corner Brook. And then further north, you're looking at anywhere from 4 to 5 degrees, and again, staying gray for the majority of the afternoon. Most of the coastal areas of Labrador will still see those fog patches continue through tomorrow, and then the further, at least towards central, Happy Valley, Goose Bay, looking at either flurries or showers, but that'll be late day, around 7 degrees, and then that snow again. Snow to rain mix for most of you in the west, and again, you could see somewhere between 5 to 10 centimeters before that's all said and done. So that's a look at tomorrow's forecast. Another day of some cooler temperatures, but then as we head towards the weekend, it looks like those temperatures are going to bump up. Probably get into those details coming up.
Welcome back to Here and Now. When you think about Her Majesty's Penitentiary, you probably don't think about growing new life, but these two guests are trying to change that. Jan Bewley and Tim Walsh are part of the Phoenix Gardening Project. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be here.
Why do you want to introduce gardening to inmates?
First and foremost, gardeners are hopeful people, and gardening's all about nurturing and opportunities for transformation, I guess, through that nurturing. And Tim, what are you thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in horticulture for 30 plus years now, and I see the transformative power of horticulture every day. You know, we see all the time when people are exposed to gardening, to horticulture, in even the smallest way, it does transform them. It relaxes you, it makes you feel good about what you're doing. Having a small plant like this little snake plant we got here, having to care for that in a small space even, such as we have inside HMP, it really brings an incredible positive feel and mood to a person's environment.
So already you've been working with the inmates on things like repotting plants like that one.
Yep.
What sort of transformation have you seen as people have participated in this?
Oh my goodness. So yesterday, the Phoenix Gardening group that Jan and I are involved with, we go inside of the prison with some other volunteers, and we work with the inmates. And they get to take a plant like this simple little house plant here and take it out of its pot and explore its root system, separate that plant, and pot up their own individual plant and put it in a pot and take it back to their cell so that they can actually care for this plant. So during that process, the power of horticulture is evident. You know, people relax more, they start to chat, they interact with each other, they want to learn about this plant, they get excited about taking care of it. And so just this simple little plant is a very, very powerful tool in that environment.
So Jen, you want to be able to expand this program and be able to do things like vegetables. What are you hoping to be able to accomplish?
Well, we have big plans. We have a greenhouse that is going to be unveiled on the 30th of June at a grand opening. The team, the outside gardeners, as we sometimes call ourselves, have been creating with the help of the questioning from the inside gardeners, an 8-module learning invitation curriculum that will equip the inmates who go through this program with a gardening certificate. So there's a vocational piece as well. There's a real opportunity to build community and think about re-entering community and family settings and home settings with a renewed sense of hopefulness and confidence. Tim, talk about the amaryllis bulb, because that's a cool story.
Yeah. So one of our volunteers, as a member of our group, gave the group an amaryllis, and we all know amaryllis as this big bulb that you buy in the stores in the fall, and you plant that bulb and nothing happens for a long time, but eventually that bulb starts to grow and it'll shoot up a very tall flower stem and puts on this beautiful big bloom at Christmas time. And so that sat there on the table. They potted it up, the group did, and it sat there for a while, and all of a sudden it started to grow, and it started to grow, and it started to grow, and then it popped into this big beautiful bloom. And the group was so excited. In fact, they actually shared the bulb around from cell to cell, so it lived in each cell for a little bit of time, and they all got to appreciate that beautiful bulb. So it was a real great, incredible sign of energy, of hope, of life, of beauty for these guys, and I think it really brought so much to them, especially in the dead of winter, and especially inside the walls where there's probably not so much light and certainly not many houseplants lying around. So they really get a chance to be around something beautiful like that, and I think we feel it really makes a huge impact on their lives. And so that's kind of where this program came from, because we have a deep strong understanding and knowledge and a belief that gardening, that horticulture brings that to people, and who else needs it more than people who are removed from a lot of that. So we really feel that really impacts positively on their daily life.
Well, thank you so much, both of you, for joining me and sharing this project.
Thank you very much.
Well, welcome back to Here and Now. Something of a COVID generosity update. It has to do with that vessel you see behind us. Joining me now are two guests. First with Mayor Terry French of CBS. So, Mayor French, tell me what happened today and how we got to where we are.
Well, I guess this all started on Monday morning for me. One of our councillors, who's also an employee at Eastern Health, were coming together with a package and reached out to the town looking for some toques to give to our friends out on the bay. And I guess we went from there, and ironically enough, that very same day, Major Pilgrim reached out to me and said, Terry, is there something we can do to help those poor guys on the boat? And of course, what spawned out of that was us going back to Eastern Health and through Councillor Tilley, and we were looking for some wool socks. And of course, that wool socks grew an awful lot bigger than just wool socks and toques, and Major Pilgrim could certainly speak to that.
Well, we always like to meet the needs of the community, and our hearts have been certainly heavy for those folks on the boat.
reaching out to Mayor French the other day, and of course we just wanted to do what we could to help out and see if there was something tangible that we could do to help in their needs. And so, like Mayor French just said, wool socks became something more. 23 pairs of wool socks also became 23 pairs of mittens and 23 sweaters and 23 coats. And so there's a lot of good stuff that's been brought along to the folks on that vessel, and we hope that it can be certainly a way to meet the needs that they might have right now.
Well, Mayor French, as you well know, is a very popular spot for people, not just residents of CBS, but a lot of people come out here just to enjoy the beauty. Nonetheless, it can't be easy to be stuck on that self-isolating with COVID.
We really can't imagine what it must be like. I mean, just in our own neighborhoods, we know of people who are just self-isolating without COVID, and some of the stresses on their families and trying to deal with that, and people bringing them food and looking after them, catering to them. And, you know, typical Newfoundland and Labrador fashion, we look after everyone as much as we possibly can. But I mean, these guys are in a very enclosed environment. There's some of them that are sick. You know, they have a colleague who's been brought to the hospital. You know, the worry and the pressures on these guys are unbelievable. You know, we really can't imagine what it's like. So the least little thing that we can do as residents of Conception Bay South, the Salvation Army, of course, and Major Pilgrim stepped up with us again, and Councillor Tilley for coordinating it all with Eastern Health. You know, it's just a coming together, and it's something we all should do for anybody who's in that kind of a position.
Is there any indication as to how long we know that that ship's going to stay there? Is it bound to stay for at least the 2 weeks of self-isolation, or?
I have no idea, and I mean, I guess they have people who are self-isolating, obviously, because they've been in contact with people who have COVID, unfortunately, and then we have people who are ill. So, you know, I guess they have to deal with, you know, things like Transport Canada and so on, and our federal counterparts to decide when it's time they can move and should move for health and safety reasons.
Right. And I guess as far as the generosity that you mentioned before, Major Pilgrim, you get a sense that people, even though it's highly unlikely that people are going to meet any of those crew members on that ship, but what do you think motivates people to give stuff to people they've never met who are on board a vessel?
I think people just want to help meet the needs of the people. It's about coming together as a community to help assist in a time of need, and sometimes it's not the big things, it's more or less the practical things and some of the little things that make the greatest difference. And I think just to show that we care is what it's all about. We're here, and we just want to be able to do that, and I think the community has stepped up and has really come alongside to help out in a big way with that.
Now, I know Eastern Health has sort of stepped up to make this whole thing happen. Maybe, what are the logistics of just getting stuff to that ship?
Well, you know, I was talking to Councillor Tilley this morning, and he's tied up, of course, working, you know, in his role with Eastern Health, and I think that was the coming together of a group of employees. But to make that happen, they had to get everything sanctioned by Health Canada and then the local Eastern Health, and of course they got people going back and forth to the ship, I guess, doing testing and one thing and another. So it was a pretty big coordination just to make that happen. But thank God for the people at Eastern Health and some of the things that we do that we don't even know about. And here's another one of those examples.
We certainly want to offer up our assurance of prayers and our thoughts for them at this time. Wish them all the best, and just want to assure them that we care and that we are there for them, believing that you know, prayers will be answered in these days and that they will be just fine.
All right. Thank you very much for your time, and hopefully those guys will all be safe and well and get on their way when the time is right. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
an architectural eyesore with $1 million view. Why has the province left the Grace Hospital nursing residence to rot on some prime St. John's real estate? Later this week on Here and Now, urban disgrace.
The common-law spouse of the man responsible for last April's mass killings in Nova Scotia has pleaded not guilty to 2 charges that she faces in connection with the tragedy. A lawyer for 52-year-old Lisa Banfield entered the pleas during a telephone appearance in Dartmouth Provincial Court this morning. Banfield was not present. She's accused of unlawfully supplying the shooter, Gabriel Worthman, with ammunition in the months leading up to his rampage. Banfield's older brother and brother-in-law are also facing similar charges. Her trial is expected to last 5 days, beginning in March 2022. The number of Canadians vaccinated against COVID-19 is climbing every day, but the number of vaccinations required for Canada to reach herd immunity status is still an open question. According to one expert, the threshold is getting higher as coronavirus variants become dominant, and Canada is just one small part of the global picture.
Wherever this virus is, if it's allowed to propagate there, it'll eventually mutate in a way that will make our vaccine immunity less effective. And these viruses always find their way back in today's world, back across borders. So we have to aim for that global threshold.
According to the World Health Organization, India now accounts for nearly half of all new cases of COVID-19 around the world. And despite having the world's biggest vaccine capacity, slightly less than 10% of people in India have been vaccinated at all. Foreign ministers from the world's 7 wealthiest nations have wrapped up their first face-to-face summit in more than 2 years. The G7 ministers were joined by guests from 4 other nations. They gathered to talk about a variety of issues, but the aggressive spread of COVID-19 became the top priority. Tessa Arcilia has the details.
It's their first face-to-face meeting in 2 years because of COVID. Foreign ministers of the G7 countries plus 4 guest nations were in London over the last 2 days to discuss a whole host of world issues. Topping that list, of course, is the global pandemic, including the devastating situation in India. And today, COVID struck that meeting. Word of 2 possible COVID positive cases among the delegation from India led the foreign minister of that country to conduct his bilateral meetings via video link instead of face-to-face. But the show continued today. The most important topic that they wanted to address is the issue of trying to get as many vaccines to as many places as possible, especially those that need them the most. Now, the unequal distribution is stark. Of all the vaccines administered so far globally, less than 1% have gone to low-income countries. The G7 nations here have agreed to support financially the global vaccine sharing program, COVAX, and ramp up the financial contribution of these countries.
We had a very good discussion on how the G7 can continue to support the multilateral response to COVID-19, particularly through the ACT Accelerator and the COVAX initiative. And I reminded our colleagues that Canada has provided $940 million to the ACTA, including $325 million for COVAX, making us the 4th largest contributor in the world.
This ministers' meeting and the joint statement they agreed upon sets the tone for the G7 Leaders Summit in June. Tessa Arcilia, CBC News, London.
Well, to the United States now. He's out of the White House and off of your social media feeds, but Donald Trump isn't going to be allowed back on Facebook, at least for now. The company's oversight board has voted to uphold Trump's suspension from those platforms. The former U.S. president's Facebook, as well as his Instagram accounts, they were shut off in January because of comments that he made about the deadly riots at the Capitol. The Oversight Board, which is independent from the company, says Facebook needs to decide within 6 months whether to make the ban permanent or to restore Trump's accounts. Donald Trump responded quickly, as he often does, calling the decision a total disgrace and warning Facebook it would pay a political price. Well, with more people working from home, the pandemic has fueled a pet adoption boom, and we hope to have a local story about that in the coming days on Here and Now. But to a national story, some puppies brought into Canada have been found to be in poor health, and that's prompted the federal government to impose new import regulations. As Alison Northcott reports, not everybody is satisfied.
These puppies arrived at this emergency shelter 6 weeks ago. Humane Society International says Canadian authorities intercepted them at the border over their importers' fraudulent paperwork.
We need very strong sanctions for people trying to import dogs that are not meeting requirements to make sure that there is no longer a profit attached to it.
Animal imports are regulated by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. Last year, CFIA launched an investigation after a flight arrived in Toronto from Ukraine with hundreds of puppies on board, including 38 that had died. Now, the government is introducing new rules to crack down on shipments of dogs under 8 months for breeding, resale, or adoption that don't meet Canadian requirements. Importers will soon have to specify how many dogs they're importing, ensure dogs have rabies vaccines at least 28 days before coming to Canada, provide travel route information, and have an approved quarantine facility available if needed.
So you can still bring in large numbers of animals, you can still potentially bring them from some dodgy situations, but it makes it harder.
Dr. Scott Weiss says buyers have a role to play too.
The problem is people in Canada that will spend a lot of money for dogs and just won't ask the questions to figure out where they came from because they're in a hurry or they haven't taken the time to look or they just don't want to know.
Humane Society International worries what will happen to puppies that don't meet import requirements since CFIA can't automatically seize them.
And if they're returned to the country of origin, we know that we're sending them to an uncertain fate.
Elizabeth Pierce runs a rescue and is a small-scale breeder. She says she does plenty of research and paperwork when she imports just one puppy. She wants more safeguards against unscrupulous importers bringing in a lot of dogs to sell for big money.
It's very difficult. It's just that people don't know where they're coming from. They just don't know the background, and they shouldn't be bringing in that many.
The CFIA says there's no limit on the number of dogs an importer can bring in, but they have to meet animal health and humane transport requirements. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
Tommy, listen to this.
Oh, this is country music.
I first got interested in synthesizers probably when I was in junior high school, from what I remember.
I don't know if I would have released this album if it weren't for the pandemic.
I literally got just so involved with the guitar itself.
Ashley, I know a lot of people are looking forward to the weekend, especially because it's Mother's Day. You want to have a nice day to be able to go out for a little walk with your mom or, do something outside. How's the weekend forecast looking right now?
Well, until we get to that point, it's looking a little bit wet, but it may dry out for the day on Sunday, except it looks windy, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, you can never have all, you can't have
all
nice things. No.
No. Let's take a look at the future tracker to get us there. Friday's looking unsettled as we see that area of low pressure that's going to move in tomorrow. It's moving fairly slowly, and it's going to make Friday's weather pretty unsettled through the afternoon, looking at generally gray skies, some scattered showers here and there. And then for Labrador, some of that snow will transition to rain or mix with rain for the west as we head through the day on Friday, and then rain the story as you head towards Churchill Falls and then eventually central Labrador as well as we head through the day. As we head into the evening hours, again, that potential for some flurries will be in the mix. And then for Saturday, the next weather maker will move in, so we're going to see a series of lows move in. This one's going to bring a little bit more rain with it for sure on Saturday, and then continue through most of the afternoon. It moves through fairly quickly, so by Sunday we should actually see some sunshine in the mix through the afternoon. Temperatures on Friday still sitting in those mid-single digits, so anywhere from 4 to 6 degrees through the day. Again, some scattered showers and or drizzle the story through the afternoon. And then for Labrador, you're looking at temperatures from 2 to 7 degrees, so not really moving too much in the way of temperatures through the afternoon. And then as we head into Saturday, we're looking at temperatures bumping up just a little bit, anywhere from 5 to 10 degrees through the afternoon. Temperatures for Labrador will finally see some sunshine on Saturday, it looks like, for Lab City, but overall still hanging on to the rain potential for Happy Valley Goose Bay, sitting around 8 degrees. Over the next couple of days, by the time we get to Sunday, we'll see the return of those double-digit temperatures, 12 degrees through the day. Monday, looking at the double digits as well. And again, some few peaks of sun. However, the shower potential certainly still there in the morning and in the evening hours. Now for central Newfoundland, you're looking at your temperatures not quite as warm, and it does look like gray skies will continue, as does that potential for some showers right through Monday, anywhere from 8 to 10 degrees as we head into the beginning of next week. And then for western Newfoundland, again, same thing, gray skies and showers, the story right through Monday, temperatures between 7 and 9 degrees. Now for eastern Labrador, some snow still in the mix potentially on Sunday. However, your temperatures will be anywhere from 6 to 8 degrees as your daytime highs, but your overnight lows hovering around the 1 degree mark. Saturday looking nice for western Labrador, and then for the rest, it's looking like periods of snow for Sunday, and then Monday, some rain in the mix as well. Wanted to share this photo in Kelligrews, just another sunset there for you. Kim shared that one with us. And if you have any weather photos that you'd like to share with us, send them to enaphotos@cbc.ca.
Any photo with the sun is a good photo.
Yes, I agree.
Pretty shot. Well, as you saw off the top of Here and Now tonight, big story has to do with the Green Report. I wore this tie in honor of this occasion tomorrow.
Green with an E, Anthony. Green with an E.
Spelling was no good for me, Peter. Now, normally they'll take reporters on an event like this, lock them all up, and I'm not going to be incarcerated tomorrow, but Peter is going to be locked up for this event, and we'll have a lot of coverage tomorrow, Peter?
Yeah, so the actual report gets released at noon. We get to go in at 10 a.m. and get to sort of peruse it, and that way we hopefully have some good questions by the time we actually get to connect with Moya Green, who is the author of the report, and then a lot of it will be focused on the reaction. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of this on Here and Now tomorrow night. You know, we saw the finance minister thinks this is going to be a transformative report. So we'll bring you all the details. We'll bring you lots of reaction. We've got the political panel with their analysis on, you know, what this does for the government. So
Busy show.
It's almost like a mini budget. You know,
Yeah.
we often have these, you know, especially with a budget, we get locked up, we do a big show. So with what they're talking about here, you know, this has the potential to change a lot of things in this province. So we're going to take a close look at it tomorrow night.
Tune in. See you then.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.